Yes, brother, we have answered your question that the original soulmate essence has become distorted. That's where they are. Yes, there are male and female forms upon the earth. And within those forms, within every form, there is that which, when united on the inner level, will be part of the one whole.
Yes.
But how do you reach it with so much distortion? You have to battle your way through those personality vibrations, through those personality forces, through those personality differences, through the personality egotism and selfishness. Yes, you'll find your soulmate when you can raise your consciousness to a high enough level and find there the other half of yourself.
So when people say, this is my soulmate, this is almost impossible, that there's no such a thing as a living soulmate on this earth. Is there?
Well, it is wise, brother, when people say that, to look at their lifestyle, to look at their life pattern. And if they are living in perfect harmony, thinking and acting and feeling as one, if there is a great love between them which never allows any disharmony, any disagreement, any lack of understanding, any cruelty, any selfishness, if you find a person like this, then perhaps you could begin to believe they have found their soulmate. But is that how one finds those who like to claim to have soulmates? We do not think so. Or we have never found them so. It is usually a glamour, a personality egotism to say one has found one's soulmate. And usually if one were to follow them into their homes without being seen, one would find those soulmates who are quarreling like cats and dogs. Do not always believe what people say, brother, or you will be very misled.
Thank you.
Well, brothers, nothing you want to say to us before we withdraw?
Yeah, I have a question, Maharaj, about the animal kingdom, how they evolve, and I don't really know how to ask the question properly, actually. But what happens when they have reached the height of their level? Do they become human beings, or how does it work?
They move into the human kingdom, brother, as a group, not individually.
As a group?
Not individually. They are, to understand that question, brother, one has to remember that the animal kingdom, as so many of the lower kingdoms, is not individualized on a soul level. There is not an individual soul in an individual animal, as there is, no matter how undeveloped, a spark of soul within an individual human. The animals are still functioning under a group soul, which flows through the whole group. And that is why they work together so harmoniously, why they think together, feel together, move together. They are an example of group living that humanity is to emulate. But remember, that is only because they have not yet developed individuality. They still have to come through the individuality of the human kingdom. And there they will enter into separatism, and then of their own free will and through their own efforts they have to enter back into group living. At present they live as a group because they have no choice in the matter. They cannot break away from the group thought, the group movement, the group feeling. And if you watch the flocks of birds upon your earth and the herds of animals, then you will see this in action for yourself. When a flock turns in the sky, when it wheels and swoops, they all wheel and swoop together. They do not split off in all directions, and they move as one, do they not? When a herd of animals runs, they run together as one. When danger calls, you don't get one animal running and the other staying behind. They all move simultaneously and move away from danger because they have one group mind and one group soul.
I can see that with the wild animals. How does it work with the domesticated animals then?
Well, the domesticated animals are the first of their species to be moving towards the human kingdom, and that is why they are with the human kingdom, because their very contact with the human kingdom is what is helping them to evolve, or should be, if they are treated correctly. Very often the way they are treated, we would feel is no encouragement for any animal to wish to be a human.
True.
I have a question. My name's Morale. I'm going through some weird changes, as in being able to contact people from the other side. I'm finding it really difficult to handle with my religious beliefs and things. Could you give me some advice on how to cope or handle this?
Do you choose to contact the other side, or have you no control over it?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no.
So you can control it.
Oh, well, as of yet, no, I can't.
Are you sitting in groups to develop that ability?
Well, I'm starting out to. That's why I'm here tonight.
Well, this, of course, is not the primary purpose of a group such as this.
Mm-hmm.
We teach people spiritual unfoldment. We lead them along the path of developing their higher self. Contact with inner levels is automatic as one progresses and one evolves. And it comes to all who are unfolding their spiritual capacities, who are unfolding their higher self. It cannot be avoided. Gradually one contacts each level. And remember, there are so many levels of consciousness, so many levels, worlds, if you like to call them that, on which entities are living and going through their own evolution. And they run parallel with this, some of them, and some do not run parallel with the human kingdom. So when one begins to enter into these worlds, one has to think of many things. Many people find that they have a door which is not properly closed, it is partially open, often because of things that have happened in the past. And therefore they get glimpses into the inner planes, and if they wish to develop this, as many do, then they can open those doors completely. Or on the other hand, if they wish to close them, they can close them down for the time being. They will open fully anyway, as we say, when the person is spiritually advanced enough. So one has to ask oneself, why does one wish to open these doors? Why do you wish to open them?
I don't know.
Well,
It's not-
is that
Just
not
so
a very,
confused.
a very dangerous position for anyone to do something without knowing why? That is indeed a mindless movement through life, is it not? Even upon your earth.
I would like to help people.
But why can you not help people even if you have not got the ability to contact other levels of consciousness? Many people do help. In fact, some of the greatest servers in the world have no consciousness of anything except this plane. And they work very thoroughly to aid life and humanity upon this plane. Think about these things, because there is no importance truly in breaking through to the inner plane. Life for most people is complicated enough upon the earthly plane and difficult enough to handle. Then why does one wish to have two streams of light running past? If we find it difficult, brother, to deal with the problems of one life, what do we gain by having to deal with the problems of two worlds simultaneously. What do you feel you're going to gain?
I don't know, that's why I'm just so confused sort of thing.
Well, we present these ideas to you, brother, for your consideration. You will inevitably, as all people upon earth, make up your own mind. But perhaps if you understand a little more fully what is involved, you will find it easier to make up your mind. There is nothing spiritual, of course, in contacting inner levels, nothing spiritual at all. This is the basic thing to build your ideas and your decisions upon. Psychic phenomena and spirituality have no relationship. One does not indicate the other, ever. Spiritual unfoldment and spiritual living is a manifestation of inner higher qualities from our higher being upon earth, manifesting them, living by them, expressing them, living as what we truly are, a soul in incarnation. Probing into the inner worlds is merely, for most people, an act of curiosity coming from the personality. Curiosity built on ignorance, glamour, that it is something exciting, something clever, something wonderful to do. It is, of course, in truth, merely a curiosity, and is there not a saying, upon your earth, that curiosity killed the cat?
But even if you don't do it, like consciously sort of thing, like they're just coming through themselves sort of thing.
And
Is
what
that bad?
what do they say to you, brother?
I only see shadows as of yet. I've just been to friends that sort of can talk to it, and my soulmate from the other side, I don't know what he is because I'm still reading up on it. He just said, keep up the good work, you will do wonders in years to come. And I'm just sort of confused because I don't know how to handle it or what to think.
Well, brother, as we put the basic facts before you, what are you going to gain? All right, someone has said to you, keep up the good work, you will do great things in the future. Concentrate on that. If that appeals to you, if that is what you want, does not matter who says it. Someone on earth could have said that to you. We could say it to you. Your friend could say it to you. It is a positive statement. And therefore, direct your energy to being of great service to humanity, which is what they are saying. It is not important where statements come from, because always we have to discriminate. Do we always believe everything we are told by people on earth? Do you?
No.
No. Then why? It always amazes us. Do people believe everything that comes from an inner plane, which is no different than earth, which is inhabited by beings, usually in between incarnations, for remember it is on those levels that we all dwell, in between incarnations, and on those levels we meet exactly the same types of people that we would meet on earth. Some wise, some loving, some advanced, some cruel, some selfish, some foolish, and some deliberately misleading, just as we would meet them on earth. And so, whatever we meet on the inner plane, it is wise to treat them just as we would upon earth, and to say, well, I don't trust that person, I don't want anything to do with them. They come to our door, they try to sell us something, we say, we do not want your product. You shut the door. Do exactly the same on the inner planes. Do not be glamorized that all that comes through is going to be wonderful and true. It may be no more than a mischievous person who would play a trick upon you on earth, still playing tricks from where they are, and thinking it is a great joke to fool somebody on the earth if they are foolish enough to listen to them.
How would I know the differences?
That's for you to discriminate, brother. How would you know the difference on earth If someone tried to play a trick on you, you would know, wouldn't you?
Sometimes you can pick it out.
Usually. And if one does not immediately pick it up, one soon learns.
Learns,
Because usually one pays the price for it.
yeah. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
same on the other side.
Mhm.
If you do not learn through intuition whether it is true or not, or right or not, then you will follow what they say, and usually you will pay the price, which can be quite painful, because you will do something stupid, which will cost you on one level or another.
Okay, thank you.
That is the answer, brother.
Mhm.
A little common sense. Do not be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. Your religious background, of course, has inbuilt subconscious fears. But it does not matter. These worlds are in existence, and they are inhabited by people exactly like they are on earth. Good, bad, and indifferent. Stupid, ignorant, wise. Loving, cruel, and unkind. And remember this, and think of it in this way. Oh, so if you receive something from the inner planes, if you are open, and you receive something from the inner planes, say, very good, brother, thank you, I'll think about it, and go your way. That sensible attitude will always protect you.
Thank
But
you
do
very
not
much.
get glamorized that you must follow, that some great wisdom, some great wise being is telling you to do something that you have to follow. You are the master of your own life. And think of the inner worlds as you would think of this one, and try to live with them in common sense. Test everything that comes through. Look for correspondences. If you receive something from an inner plane, and then soon after, someone else, quite unconnected, tells you the same thing, and then a little later, from another source, maybe from a book, maybe from a recording, maybe someone else again tells you exactly the same thing, independently of each other, then you can start to think, well, it begins to look as if there was something in that original saying. So perhaps I had better try it and act upon it. See, this is common sense approach. And probably when you start to test out what has been said, you will either discover that it is completely untrue and not worth listening to, or you will get correspondences which confirm that for you it could be beneficial. The next step. Think about that, brother, and go ahead without fear. Above all things, go ahead without fear. Do not let yourself be confused. Use your normal discrimination and common sense.
Thank you very much.
Even in what we say to you, remember, we are speaking to you from the inner planes. You have to discriminate whether what we say is worth listening to or not. And therefore you will find out for yourself what is beneficial and what is not. Yes, brother. Think about that and you will not go far wrong. All who begin to experience things on the inner plane have to find this common sense approach, because the greatest danger is being glamorized and foolish, letting one's common sense fly out of the window. Does anyone else have anything to say? Balanced lives with no problems tonight. It is good to know that that is so. Nothing from Brother Janet? Nothing from Brother Bert either. That is a change.
I wouldn't mind asking one question if I could, Ronnie Lane. There is some literature in some books on our world about the concept that the earth is hollow and there are people living on the inside of the world. I just ask if you could comment about that, please.
Good question.
We find that that is certainly a fallacy. A fallacy which has been built up, and perhaps once again a little common sense would give you the answer. You are aware that inside the earth are molten fires of very high temperature. Truly, how could human beings be living there? There are fire spirits, yes, and from this we feel that this fallacy has been built. The planet is inhabited by many energies, many deva forms and spirits, yes. Water devas, devas of air, the devas of fire, yes, they are part of the creation of the planet. In fact, they are the energies that keep the planet alive. This is what makes it a living planet. But to say that there are human beings living in the heart of a planet is indeed a fantasy.
Can I expand the question a little bit too to ask about extraterrestrial influence on the world?
Extraterrestrial influence on the world, yes, and planetary influence, certain planets certainly influence the world.
Like that there are extraterrestrials in spaceships that visit the world and have a direct influence here?
Well, to a certain extent. To a certain extent, there are means of contacting the planet, and always have been. And there have always been evolved lives from more advanced planets, especially in the past, in early evolution, coming to the earth in order to teach and in order to manifest certain qualities and to lay down certain patterns of living. Many of the prophets in your early biblical teachings are of this character, this consistency, and they indeed have incarnated upon your planet, because on every world there is always an exchange of life in that way. There are always those more advanced beings who will incarnate on a less advanced planet in order to aid those at certain stages of their evolution, those inhabitants of that planet. And of course, as you advance in the future, you too will go to less evolved planets, and there you will work in your service towards others. But one has to remember when one is speaking about these things, and this is where the confusion arises, that the time element has to be taken into account. And many things that are picked up by your psychics upon earth are basically correct. But what happens? When they are brought down into the personality, and the personality with its limited ideas, with its egotism, and with its sense of time, wishes to bring them into manifestation, or hopes they can be brought into manifestation within the lifetime of that particular entity who has picked up the psychic conditions. This is where everything is confused. And this is, of course, where the personality impinges upon the soul receiving. The truth so often is that what is picked up is a spiritual truth which will eventually manifest. But that eventual manifestation, like the coming of the Christ to earth, which is prophesied so much upon your earth, and always has been, can be 100, 1,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 years ahead, but correct. The manifestation takes place in cyclic periods. But when the psychic who picks it up then says in 2 or 3 years' time, on a certain date, this is going to happen, the whole thing becomes confused and erroneous. It is the time element always. Not that the initial idea, the initial receiving was necessarily incorrect, but that the time which the personality wishes to compress it into for its own glorification and egotism makes it incorrect.
Yeah, okay. With the circle phenomena and the pattern in the wheat in England and other parts of the world, there's a lot of speculation that the extraterrestrials are involved with that. Is that true, or is that not true?
There are all kind of energies, and remember that the means of travel for so many of these terrestrials and the knowledge and the scientific ability on many levels, both esoteric and exoteric, is so far ahead of understanding of those upon earth. Also, the bodies of so many of these entities are so different than the bodies of man upon earth. A different substance altogether. Many of them not beyond the etheric stage, a light substance, which again is as unfamiliar and as invisible to the physical eye upon earth as the human etheric body is. How many of your people upon earth can see the etheric body of themselves or of their brethren? And yet it is in full existence. It has to be, or the physical body would not live. But how many can see it? So, terrestrials come to earth, but only the few would ever see them if they manifested right in front of them. And their vehicles are created of many substances, which again is, to, for want of a better word, one could say mainly etheric. So they are not visible. And the few who have etheric vision often pick them up and make a report of it. And the impact upon Earth is often merely an energy impact rather than the landing of a physical vehicle as you understand it. So that the down pressure of the forces that are driving those vehicles could make all kind of indentations upon your earthiness. But the trouble is that man's limited thinking, it is like the psychic bringing through and limiting his receiving with the time. Man's limited thinking of terrestrials and space travel is built entirely on his own concepts and his own ability scientifically to build his own spacecrafts, which of course, as you are well aware, is very primitive and only in its infancy. And yet the ideas that will be known upon Earth in another century, in another 500 years, in another 1,000 years, will be so beyond comprehension that traveling and space vehicles and the ability to travel through space and to disintegrate one's body and to reassemble it again somewhere else in what you call time machines will be so normal and natural that one will think nothing of it. And so if other planets and other beings utilize these methods now because they are a simple part of their scientific achievements, it does not make it possible for us to understand their appearance, their vehicles, or their motives, as they do go backwards and forwards from various other planets. You see, humanity is so far behind, so primitive, so ignorant compared to much life on other planets, although there are many planets again far behind in evolution to humanity. But nevertheless, to some evolved races, the life here is so primitive, and yet man is always trying to understand, and understand by putting everything in his own terms, seeing a shining silver metal vehicle as he would build his own, and seeing bodies of flesh and blood and bones as he would have his own body seen, and thinking that this must all happen, and beings who look like himself are going to step out of vehicles which are similar to his own, and so on. And this is where the discrepancies occur. If one could expand one's mind far enough, both esoterically and scientifically, which even the most advanced brains upon your earth cannot yet do, because they do not recognize or have not discovered the scientific possibilities. And if they could, then they would realize the many, many means by which there could be this contact and these visitations from beings from other worlds. So beyond a certain point, it is not possible to understand it. One can say, yes, basically it is correct in the fact that it does happen, but does not happen in the way that man can only imagine it at present.
Thank you. Yeah.
But brother, is it is it really worthwhile to concentrate on all these things? Is it that one thing we have to do while we are in this human vehicle, to concentrate on the love of God and exemplify God within us, and let God manifest himself through us in our being, that we are his substance? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
not the most important point of life?
Yes, exactly, brother, but at the same time, the human mind being what it is, will always be curious. As you say, it is not worth too much concentration, no. Apart from the fact that things are possible, and the acknowledgement that all things are possible, and that things in the future, even to humanity, will be possible which today would be considered quite impossible. Just as things that humanity is doing today, a century ago would have been considered impossible. So man is evolving, remember. And when one speaks of the love of God, one has, which is quite correct, but one has then to come down from those emotional levels that you are speaking about, and those devotional levels, and utilize the mind that God gave to one. Remembering that the mind is also part of God's creation as much as their feelings. And therefore, when we utilize the mind that God gave us, we then start to reach out for an understanding of this God that we are speaking about. And then we can say to ourselves, what is God? Where is God? And at the same time one says, what am I? And where am I? The eternal question. Then we come back to the statement made in the past by the oracles of the past, such as the Oracle of Delphi, which said, man, know thyself. The first statement given from a higher source to man in his early stages of evolution. Man, know thyself. And that still holds as good today as any other time. Then we are brought to a different outlook, are we not? Yes, we can say that was an injunction of God. Man, know thyself. So if we are going to obey God, then God's, we could say, statements to us was know thyself. So we go on to know ourselves. And by utilizing the mind as well as the feeling, we begin to know many things. We begin to understand the planet, life upon it, the forms, even the fact, which can be no more than an idea, that life is upon other planets, and that it manifests, and that it moves about, and that God's creation, of course, includes the whole of the cosmos. Once we expand away from ourselves, then we begin to get a wider idea of the God that is so much spoken about. Not the God in the sky, but the God within. And if we are then going to say God is love, we are also going to recognize that we are potentially God. So therefore we are love. And if we say that God is all-powerful and all-knowing, then we are all-powerful as we develop and all-knowing.
Yes.
So how do we split one from the other, brother?
God.
People so often speak about God, utilizing one of the emotions, but remember, that is only part of us. To understand ourselves is to understand God. To understand God is to understand ourselves.
Yes.
Man, know thyself. Let us widen a little on the very truthful statement that you have made. We are not arguing with it, but we are taking it a little wider, brother, a little wider.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
You with us, brother?
Yes, certainly. Thank you. I am.
Always the expansion. That is what we try to do, to widen the thinking. To take the correct ideas which most of you state, because what you state is basically correct, all of you. But, as is to be expected, held within the narrow confines of human thinking in the finite mind and human conditioning throughout the ages. And we strive to widen it, that you may see new approaches to that original idea, lateral thinking as you call it, thinking of it in different ways. There are always many different ways of looking at any particular subject or principle. And the more ways we have of looking at something, the more knowledgeable we are going to be, the more understanding we will have of it. Because there is nothing which has only one use. All things have many uses, and all things have many aspects. And that certainly includes human beings and gods. All satisfied now then?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, in which case, Rani Lash, keeper of the gateway of power, blesses you and sends you on your journey with his love and his energy, that you may be impelled forward, impelled in a way that will take you into the power of your own soul nature, to serve, to love, and to give forth, and to grow in wisdom and knowledge. Go into the world as forerunners, as part and parcel of the pioneer spirit, and be to the full of your capacity those pioneers who shine the light for others to follow into the new age. Go in peace, brother.